Welcome to another edition of Southern Football Network. This show is fun, SEC football at its finest. Antonio Williams, they're with us every week. Thanks for being on the show again.
Chris, always excited. You know I'm excited to be with the Southern Football Network. Our family that's out there remote as well, once again, is on. Let's get into it.
Yeah, man, it's fun. I'll tell you, best football conference in college football. Let's talk first the two new schools because, hey, it's Texas, Oklahoma. I'll start it since I'm a Longhorn. I got to talk about my team. Hook 'em. Texas, how did they dominate? Unbelievable. Michigan doesn't lose at home like this. They got humiliated. The Longhorns dominate. I'll give you one talking point. Quinn Ewers, when I saw him play his first year compared to now, Sarkisian has groomed him so well. He looks so comfortable out there. He's moving in the pocket. He's doing great things. Ewers 349 yards, passing, 3 touchdowns. And he is already one of the top Heisman Trophy leading candidates as of now. Texas looks like a national championship type team. You got Oklahoma. And what happened to the Sooners? They can't score any points.
It's so interesting to hear that Oklahoma is actually a defensive power. You wouldn't think that, especially given their history in the Big 12. But they're really playing really good defense, of course, led by Danny Stutzman. Another double-digit tackle day, had 15 tackles. Yeah, so they did a really good job in terms of playing defense, especially given the fact that Houston was coming off of a loss to UNLV. So Houston was going to be charged up. They got Houston's best shot.
Yeah.
So they really did a good job defensively. Offensively, one of the things that I would like to see more is they got to run the ball better. They only had 76 yards rushing, 2.6 yards a carry. That's not good if you want to get it done in the SEC.
Oklahoma, 40 straight home wins against unranked opponents. That's pretty impressive. All right. We're going to toss out to Jamie. Jamie, how are you doing? Speaking of struggling, although the score looked better than it was, your Alabama Crimson Tide, what did you think?
Man, I guess Alabama defeated South Florida 42-16. It still doesn't feel like it. But here's a really incredible stat from that game, Yates. Jalen Milroe became the first player in Alabama history with 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing scores in consecutive games. With the talent we've had at quarterback, to see that stat, that's a little surprising. But, you know, the guy is really just putting together a great Heisman campaign there. But, you know, you guys, that was a 1-point game for the majority of the time. It's kind of like if you've been in a relationship with a guy for like 3.5 years and he still hasn't proposed and you're like, when is it going to happen? Why hasn't it happened? It has to happen. There's no way this can't happen. You know, and then all of a sudden you get like a 4-carat ring of Bora Bora and you're like, see, I knew I had nothing to worry about, but you're still like twitching from all of the stress. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later, but we scored 28 points in 8.5 minutes. And it's just like, if we were going to do this, if this was the plan all along, like, why did we have to wait until the last minute? I don't know. It builds character, I guess.
And you know what? You were talking about the old boyfriend. Oh, Saban, you said it was like breaking up. They still honored him. What did it mean to you? Look, we got some footage of him walking down. Now it's Saban Field. That's pretty cool. Someone that just retired. The guy's a legend. He's the GOAT. Very impressive. What were your thoughts when you saw this?
Yeah, it's really a commemoration of the joy and excitement that Alabama fans have been able to experience over the last 17 years because of Nick Saban. Yates, his record was 206-29, and 6 of those 29 losses came in year 1. So we're talking 23 losses in 16 years. That's less than 1.5 a season, which is just unbelievable to wrap your mind around. And, you know, not to mention playing for the national championship 9 times in 17 years and winning 6 of those. You know, like I said last week, it's still really bittersweet for me, especially seeing all the video messages from his former players that they put together on College Game Day. It was just a really, really special day. And I'm glad we didn't lose that game.
You're not the only one that's missing Saban. Everybody's missing Saban. As a matter of fact, the host of Alabama radio station was doing a live remote with the new coach, and he's even missing Saban. You got to see this.
I want to remind everybody here at the restaurant, Baumhower's Victory Grill, you do get an opportunity to ask Coach Saban a question. We've got a microphone, and we're going to have it here in front. We're going to get to that in just a few moments. What did I say? Did I do it already?
Hey, he's everywhere. I'm sure he's in here. I was looking around trying to find him.
Okay, so I don't know who had it in the office pool, but let the record show 6:46 on September the 4th. I finally did it, and I apologize.
You don't have to apologize.
Oh, gosh. Well,
Okay, I'll tell you what. Even the host messed up already in the first week. Were you laughing at that, or are you like, oh, that's embarrassing?
Yeah, no, I mean, he was saying one name for 17 years. And, Kalen has done such like a strong yet graceful job for me. Like every time we've gotten a response from him when their names are mentioned in the same sentence. But I also think Chris Stewart, who's the host of Hey Coach, did just flawless in cleanup there, apologizing and then making like a soft joke, acknowledging that it was probably inevitable at some point that was going to happen. So 10 out of 10 here for Chris Stewart's response.
Yeah, Jamie, that was pretty funny. Now we're going to move along. We'll go to Ole Miss. Who do you got talking about Ole Miss?
We have Charlie talking about Ole Miss. Charlie, tell us your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I don't know if, you talked about maybe Alabama not proposing soon enough. I think with the way Ole Miss has been playing, they're like proposing on the first date, 1 minute into the game, the way they're blowing teams out. But we don't really know too much about Ole Miss other than Jackson Dart, incredible season. I think he's completed like 87 passes in a row and thrown 24 touchdowns in the last couple of games, or those stats might be off a little bit, but terrific defensive line at Ole Miss. It's not just about offense. Our linebackers are terrific. I don't know if we're going to find out too much about Ole Miss until, mid-October, because the schedule's not really going to offer too many tests. Maybe the Oklahoma game in late October, we'll find out a little bit more about Ole Miss. But this is a team to be reckoned with. I don't know if they're gonna lose more than a couple of games. Maybe they don't even lose two. So certainly looking like a playoff game early in the season.
Kiffin, it seems like Kiffin is more comfortable with Saban being gone. Anyway, we're going to go back. We're going back to Jamie, just you, Jamie. Tell me who you got. You brought us an interesting guest. Introduce your guest. Tell us a little about him. And you guys talk a little bit about some football.
Yes, I'm so excited. We have Peter Burns of SEC Network. I mean, one of the most integral faces and voices of SEC Network. You can catch him every morning on SEC Now. Hey, Peter, thanks so much for being with us.
I'm pumped. Yeah, I was just starting to look at that Ole Miss schedule y'all were just talking about. I'm like, that's the reason why. Like, I'm in studio every single weekend or doing a show every single weekend, and I actually took a weekend off because I got to go to the LSU Ole Miss game this year. Like that normally, as you know, as a Bama fan, normally I take off the Alabama game and go down to Baton Rouge for it. But I think that Ole Miss LSU game is going to be crazy. And I don't know what to expect out of Ole Miss. Hell, I don't even know what to expect about any of these teams so far. All I know is Georgia's really good, and everybody else is trying to figure out what the hell they are right now.
Lots of question marks. But let's talk about you first. We have your SEC This Morning show, but now you've got your own show every Saturday at noon with SEC Now Live. And we've actually pushed back college football kickoff on SEC Network. Did they do that strictly because of you?
I would love to say that would be the case, but I don't have enough talent to do that. And the reason why, guys, so they moved it back to 12:45. It kind of goes back to like what March Madness was. So think about it. Like we traditionally always had these noon kickoffs. So every single one of the games would, go to halftime at the same time, or the endings would be great, but they'd all end at the same time. So they were all kind of crushing each other on the ratings. So when ESPN and Disney and ABC got the rights to all the SEC games, they figured, hey, why don't we just move the game back to 12:45? And that way they wanted to have a 45-minute tailgate show. So I did week one, got to go a chance to go down to Knoxville and see Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava is legit, and that defense might even be better than the Tennessee offense. Last week, I was just there at Texas A&M. Connor Wegman looked okay. They got a big game, of course, going up against Florida down in the swamp that Billy Napier has to have. And this week, actually, I'll be at the only ranked game on the slate on Saturday. Kind of weird to see Bill O'Brien back coaching college. He's got Boston College at 2-0, facing Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri. So I'll be up in Columbia for that game, and that'll be ranked versus ranked. So it's a pain in the ass to get to, but it'll be fun to go up there and see Missouri finally get a chance to play.
Cool. And MIZ.
Yo, there you look at you. Oh, how about that? True SEC fan.
Well, we like to talk about fun stuff on the show, Peter, and you have a yearly bet with your co-host of SEC This Morning, Chris Doring. And last year, you and I even had a brainstorming session about what the bet should be. But please share with the class about the bet. And I understand that the record is pretty lopsided too.
5-0. I mean, obviously, my co-host, he was Hall of Fame college football player for the Florida Gators. So he's in a world of hurt right now with how bad the Gators are. But yeah, we always have that LSU Florida wager. He's had to dress up like a clown, like Tiger King back in the day. He's had to dress up like this Mr. Peanut. We got a really good one this year, but my favorite one is when LSU ended up beating Florida in the College World Series. He had to dress up as an LSU baseball player. And he had to fly from Florida all the way to media days for SEC media days. So in that outfit. So it's good. Now the question is, are we going to have a LSU Alabama wager between you and I? That's the big question that we're going to have this year.
I think we should start talking about that. All right. I'll give you a call after the show and we can figure it out. So this is a two-parter. We now have 2 weeks of the regular season under our belt. And so from what you've seen so far, how many SEC teams do you think make the college football playoff? Number one. And number two, do you think we're still going to have kind of like that similar rotation of those same 4 teams winning, even though we now have more teams at the dance? Do you think there's going to be upsets, or do you think it's just, well, they get to play and have fun, but it's going to be the same kind of consistent 4 teams?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think right now at ESPN, I just got the analytics a couple of days ago, and it said 90% chance that the SEC gets 4 or more teams. There's actually a 55% chance they get 5 teams in with the way that it's been played out so far. So I'm still thinking it's going to be 4, which is a good number. The problem is once you get down to 5 and 6, doesn't matter. Like you're saying, are they there and they're going to have a little bit of success, but can they win it? I think now think about it. If you play in a 12-game season, you play the SEC championship game, that's 13. Let's say you lose the SEC championship game. That means you're going to play a round 1 game, a round 2 game, and a possible national championship. You're talking about 16-game season. I mean, that's what the NFL did. So I think that's why you see this kind of crossroads right now with college players wanting all the money and name, image, and likeness, and they want to have almost a players association because they're thinking everybody's making billions of dollars. Well, right now you're asking us to play 16 games for television. Like, that's a whole hell of a lot. So, that's why every starting quarterback in this league right now probably makes at least $1 million or $1.5 million.
Wild. Well, we talked about the teams. Now let's talk about those players specifically and get into our way too early Heisman race. What do you make of what you've seen from these quarterbacks so far? I think let's toss to our graphic guys and who in the SEC has the best shot of winning the Heisman.
That's a good graphic. I mean, you start looking at every single one of those guys. Carson Beck, of course. I mean, they are more kind of on cruise control, so I don't think he gets the love that he's supposed to get. Jackson Dart, I mean, they've outscored their opponents 128-3 in the first 2 weeks. So, I mean, Dart is legit. Milroe, obviously, we saw last week the offensive line still is an issue right now. They had a bunch of pressures on them. But, the way Quinn went up to Ann Arbor and did exactly what he did up against Alabama and Tuscaloosa was incredible. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. And now the fact they lost C.J. Baxter and lost another running back in preseason, I think that Sark's going to have to develop his offense to pass it a little bit more. So, truthfully, look and see what Quinn Ewers does in that game against Georgia coming up in mid-October. That to me is a Heisman defining type game right now.
Good info. Thanks so much. I think we're going to toss it back to you, Yates, for some tailgating talk. You were down in Texas. Show us what kind of trouble you got into down there.
Oh, man, I love tailgating, Burns. You brought up tailgating, and great insights, by the way. Thanks for coming on. We're going to ask you a few more questions if you can hang around. But the tailgating part, I've been doing a tailgating tour since 2008, traveled all over the country, finding the greatest tailgaters in the nation. This past week, we found Bevo Man.
You know it, baby. It's Saturday, college football, and we're here to party. Tailgating's where it's at. We're tailgating, Saturday football. You got to come out and rep your team, win or lose. We might lose a couple games, but Texas is undefeated in tailgating since the invention of freshman beer.
want the horn. I cut them off.
You don't really have a tailgate. How do you tailgate that?
Oh, so we are the tailgate. Wherever we're at, we got the spectacle, we've got the music, we got the backpack coolers. So we're pretty much stocked and loaded to have our own tailgate wherever we are. Yeah, right now we're just walking around, meeting up with some friends around at various tailgates and just trying to go make new friends and just walk around. People come up. It's like it's a flame, moth with a flame. People come up and see it. It doesn't matter if they're Savannah fans or Texas fans or even Oklahoma fans. The most refrain I get is I hate Texas, but I love that. I love it. This is what gets me up. It's kind of my hobby, going out. It's really it's all about the party for me. Like I love the coming together. It's kind of like ritualistic for us. So.
What kind of looks do you get walking around?
Jaw drop. People are like talking to somebody and then their friend sees them and then they turn around and they're like, oh my God. So it's fun just to watch people's eyes and the reactions they have.
Wampler's Ultimate Tailgater, we look for the craziest fans. Look at this guy. What are you?
Oh, you know I am the ultimate Wampler's Tailgate fan. Let's go, baby.
Burns, do you dress like that when you tailgate?
Man, I was gonna say, trust me, and normally we go streaking through the quad anytime that we're up there doing the tailgating. I mean, that's the way to do it. Although I will say this, Austin is a sneaky good little city as far as tailgating. I mean, there's just so much stuff to do. I still think the number one ranking though is Oxford. I mean, Ole Miss is absolutely incredible.
That's overrated. 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 I say they're number 2 because I've been doing this. You focus on football, I focus on tailgating, baby. Number 2. Ole Miss is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but they're number 2. Number 1, I hate to say it, and Jason's not here, big Tennessee fan, the Vol Navy is incredible. Anytime, because it's different, it's unique. You got these people on boats right across the stadium, 5,000 boats, and they're cooking and they're tailgating, there's music, and they're doing it, and they call it sailgating. To me, that's awesome.
I mean, literally, I'll show it right there. I was just sailgating with them in week 1 of our deal. So it is. It's $15 million yachts that you parked right there. And now, of course, you got to give some serious booster money to get one of those little parking spots over on the place. And it's incredible. They already got their staff there. And what's funny is they said that they'll have 500 boats docked up. And real quick, how it came to be is back in like the early 60s, what ended up happening is one of the guys was so sick and tired of the traffic. So he took like his little like ski boat and took it down the river and parked there. And then he started telling his buddies like, yeah, dude, just hop on the boat. And then next week, 2 more boats showed up. And then by week 3, there were like 10 boats. And that's how Vol Navy started way back in the day.
That's a great insight. Way to go. I love that. See, that's why you're on, man. Way to go. I love that. And next time you want to get on that $50 million yacht, let me know. All you do is take a camera and say you're with ESPN, and they let you on. It's awesome. It's a good little trick. All right, now we do the segment called X, as you know, is Twitter. We call it Exceptional. All right, the first tweet of the week, an exceptional one, is Matthew McConaughey. Of course, being on ESPN, he loves ESPN. He loves game day. He loves everything Longhorns. And they're doing shots. They're doing shots on the, actually, this is a Fox one. This is a Fox. This is a big noon kickoff. But they're doing shots on the set. Interesting. Okay. Whatever. I know that's what you guys do, right? All right, next, and we'll skip that one. We'll go to, this one is going to stress Jamie out because it's Alabama. They were losing in the fourth quarter. And this is what Alabama fans look like. Is that, Jamie, were you looking like that during the game?
Yes, I know this face very well. You're stressed, you're upset, you may or may not be on the verge of tears. You're thinking, like, with this game specifically, like, I watched this movie last year. Like, why did we feel the need to release a sequel that's just as bad? Like, and then you're like, should I be drinking more? Should I be drinking less? What's the right number of Hail Marys to say? Is 50 enough? Like, what can I give up energetically in this moment as like an offering to God to like get him to help us out? And if you don't believe in God, nothing will make you change that decision that you've made for yourself faster than your team being down so that you can ask for help. You know, and you find out real quick who the universe put its money on that day. And, you know, we didn't cover, but maybe they teased us and got 5 points. I don't know.
All right, the last one shows Quinn Ewers. He showed composure on the field. Here's him showing composure off the field. A fan asked his son to take a picture, and guess what he does? Horns down. Oh, gosh, come on. Quinn just walks away. He's like, whatever, kid. You know, to me, as a Longhorn, people go, does it offend you? I'm like, no, it's a sign of respect. I love it. When teams don't play us, they're doing the horns down. Bring it, baby. You're talking about us. I love it. I'm a Longhorn. It doesn't offend me, and I absolutely love it. What do you guys think about the horns down?
I'll tell you what, real quick, I'll jump in here because I got an opportunity to do the spring game with Quinn and spend some time with them over at Media Days. And you talk about a guy that just, it's kind of like a throwback to where, hey, he's been there for a couple of years. He understands it. And I think had you done that 3 or 4 years ago, I think he would have gotten a little antsy. But, you know, now he realized, you know, he's the elder statesman of that thing. So the worst part of that was the dad. If you go back and watch the video, the dad reminds the son to throw up the horns down right at the end. Like that. I mean, what are we doing?
Great dad. What a great.
After they lost, after they got their butt whooped.
He's a role model. That dad's a role model, right? All right. We're going to go back to you, Burns. Oh, go ahead. Jamie, go ahead.
Something I've noticed about Quinn Ewers is the shorter he's cut his hair, the better he has played. You know, I mean, the kid has gone through more hairstyles than Britney Spears in 2007, although, you know, they're on 2 different trajectories. Quinn's going up and Britney was going down. But it really just shows the power of a good hairdo, I guess.
Quinn can dance on the field now, I'll tell you that. Burns, you've been good. I want to, we now it's our turn to ask you a question. We've been talking a lot Longhorns, obviously, them being number 2 now in the nation, which is impressive. You mentioned earlier, which is kind of interesting to me, Georgia and everybody else kind of finding their way. Did Texas not impress you at all? Do you think they're right there with Georgia? And by the way, you want a bold prediction? Why don't me and you make a bet right now? I'll dress up as a peanut, a coconut, whatever the hell you want. Texas will beat Georgia in Austin. Mark it down. I'm counting it.
All right. I'll tell you what, we will come up with another good bet on that because I don't
Win
know
that
if
game?
I don't know if I'm quite buying that yet. Just simply for the fact of, and I think that's going to be the new 1-2 punch, right? And no offense to Alabama, and I think Kalen DeBoer was a perfect hire for the Tide.
Yeah.
But I think the new kind of Alabama Georgia is going to be Georgia in Texas. And I will tell you this: I don't think Sarkisian gets enough love for being a damn good coach. If you see what he was able to do, even over at Texas, you know, last year, a play away from playing for the national championship, and what he's brought up so far this year, I was impressed with what they did to Michigan. But the problem is, I only think Michigan's an 8-4 team this year. When you lose 13 guys to the NFL, I don't think, you know, Harbaugh, of course, leaves for the Chargers. So I wasn't that impressed. It really comes down to that game in Austin, and then afterwards you having to dress up whatever our wager is going to be down, and you have to do the horns. You have to do the horns down while doing it as well.
I'll do it, man. I'll do it because it ain't gonna happen. I picked us beating Bama last year, and for once, you're 5-0, right? You're gonna be 5-1, and I'm gonna think of something crazy for you to do. Maybe that streaking thing, like old school for you. Okay. All right, Charlie.
So we're fine.
Hey, Charlie has been covering the SEC for 3 decades. Charlie with Athlon Sports. Throw out a question to Burns. What do you want to know?
Yeah, I'd like to get your input on the games coming up that you look to that you're going to learn something about some teams that I mentioned. Ole Miss earlier. I think it's going to take a while before we really learn exactly how good they are. But what are some games that you're looking to that are really going to tell us some things about some teams that we don't really know about yet?
Yeah, you know, September the 21st, you got Tennessee headed up to Norman. That'll be the first playoff or the first conference game for the Oklahoma Sooners. So I don't think they're very good offensively right now behind a brand new offensive line. Jackson Arnold kind of getting his first year as a starter. And then what Tim Banks has done defensively for Tennessee is incredible. They had 13 tackles for loss against NC State. That's kind of one of those, what is Tennessee under Nico Iamaleava going to look like on his first road game? So I think that's the big game that I look at because I'm actually as impressed with Tennessee's defense as I am with their offense right now, which is saying something, and that offense always rips. So I'm looking forward to that one. And again, I know we brought it up earlier in the show, but LSU Ole Miss is really intriguing, and it's for this reason. I don't think LSU is much more of a better than a 9-3 team, but I think they can put up a fight, especially at home in Death Valley at night. And the big reason why I chose that one to go to that game is because Ole Miss will have played 7 straight games. They don't have a bye. They have the latest bye of any of the SEC squads. So for me, what are they going to look like after 6 straight weeks of playing, after the travel, and then all of a sudden walking into Death Valley on a Saturday night with an LSU squad that's going to be drinking for 7 days straight? That's the matchup that I can't wait to see out there in Baton Rouge.
Guys, that was a fun show. Antonio, thank you for being part of the show. Charlie, thank you. Jamie, thank you for bringing on this gentleman. He's great. I'm sorry I ruined y'all's relationship because he's going to go to you after the show and go, what the hell kind of show did you just put me on? That was weird and crazy and wild. Burns, you were good, man. Thank you for being on. Everybody, for watching. We appreciate you. Southern Football Network. Check us out. All these videos on YouTube. And everybody, have a great week.